overall context of the call, so with an accelerated and ever-intensifying rejection of democracy and challenges for the liberal and multilateral international order. Indexes and reports measuring the overall situation of democracies in the world confirm their increased fragility and vulnerability over the last years. A process labeled as long democratic recession, a shift in the nature of autocratization, or a global expansion of authoritarian rule. Now, interdisciplinary research on the past and present challenges to democracy and facilitators of democracy can help to understand them better with a view to strengthen the resilience and stability of our democracies. And let me remind you of the expected impact. Proposals for topics under this destination should set out a credible pathway to contributing to reinvigorating democratic governance by improving the accountability, transparency, effectiveness, and trustworthiness of rule of law-based institutions and policies through the expansion of active, inclusive citizenship empowered by the safeguarding of fundamental rights. Before starting the questions and answers sessions, for which we have time until 11 o'clock, let me remind you to post your questions on Slido so that we can see them. The Slido link is on the web page of the Info Day. If you didn't see it, it is in Slido, when you open Slido, CL2 Info Day. And when you type that in and open this Slido section, please choose the so-called democracy room, which is indicated on top of the list. Before posting questions, please remember to check in the Funding and Tenders portal the page for the topic which you're interested in. We already have a number of frequently asked questions on our topics for which you can find an answer in the Funding and Tenders portal. So please check them to avoid posting the same question in our session today. I'm joined here by the colleagues, some of the colleagues in charge of the different topics, namely Alberto Domini. He is in charge of the topic 0104, the interrelation between social, cultural, and political identities, as well as the sense of belonging and democracies. Oriane Gillot, she is in charge of 0105, gender roles in extremist movements and their impact on democracy. Andrea Erde, she is in charge of 4 different topics, the 0107, digital democracy, 0108, culture, the arts and cultural spaces for democratic participation and political expression online and offline, 0109, the role and functioning of public administrations in democratic systems, and last but not least, 0111, future scenarios and young visions for European democracy 2040. I will handle today the topic 0106, computational social science approaches in research on democracy, and 0103, what is the long-term impact of rule of law and other European values on socioeconomic outcomes? Unfortunately, the colleague in charge of another 4 topics is ill today, as so many people this autumn, but we will try to answer the questions as far as possible, and if not, we'll take careful note of them and answer via the FAQ section in the Funding and Tenders portal. These topics are as 0101, protest politics and cultures of opposition in democracy, 0102, multi-level governance in times of digital and climate transitions, 0110, political participation in multilingual spaces, and 0112, testing and implementation of research results, fostering democracy and governance. And I would also like to introduce Maria Mumba-Thielstedt, who is at the command of Slido and who will take the questions that you are posting. And with that, I would actually like to ask Maria to ask the first question. Maria, can you switch on the microphone? Yes, please.
Yes, can you hear me? I hope. So we have this first question. Democracy 1111. that says projects are expected to organize a series of large-scale events. Can you explain what large-scale means approximately?
Please, I think this is for Andrea.
Just finding the button to unmute myself. Indeed. That question is mine. So the large-scale events, what that could mean for a research project under this call. This is a European Union-wide project. It addresses democracy in the European Union 2040. So the proposal will set the ambition and the means, but needs to encompass a European democratic space in its full diversity. You, as proposers or researchers involved in such a project, want to harness the existing opportunities of schools or university programs or existing competitions, even as far as creating a movement among young people to engage with. So the idea is to get more and more young people and political institutions and players engaged with the subject and stir the waters, even in the media, to create fairly a buzz in the political scene about the future of Europe 2040. So we are aware that achieving a statistically representative sample for all of Europe in hands-on engagement might not be possible, but the proposal is expected to design the widest possible outreach and engagement and systematically hold it together for this research project. The proposed approach needs to be clearly justified and quantified wherever possible for the proposal, so the experts could assess what the concrete large scale offered in the research project would mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And over to the next question, please, Maria.
Thank you. So we have one for Democracy 0101. Is there a preference for MENA region work to be done through separate consortium partners in MENA countries or via EU-based partners?
Thank you. I think I'll take that myself. So the background to this focus is the Mediterranean Initiative and the Africa Initiative of the European Union. These initiatives are encouragement for participation of countries in those regions for a list of specific calls under our Horizon Work Programme 23 and 24. Please note there is no obligation, only encouragement for these countries to participate. Participation in Horizon Europe could help build capacities in those countries. And that is actually the intention behind the initiatives that I mentioned. Thank you very much. And over to the next question.
Thank you, Katja. And I think continuing a little the similar questions, that we have one that says 0101 again. Which MENA countries are you considering? Different interpretations of MENA are available. Thank you in advance.
Which MENA countries are considered really depends on the proposal and the type of actions and research approach that you are taking in that. The list of MENA countries is available in the websites of our colleagues of the Commission who are dealing with external relations. So it's up to you which ones you deem fit to participate in your proposal. Next, please.
Thank you. Then we have one for Democracy 0106. Will bids that don't involve simulation environments to stage full-scale experiments be considered for this call?
I think also this is for me to answer. The topic requires that projects should contribute to all of the listed expected outcomes, which includes in bullet 2 simulation environments to stage full-scale experiments, which otherwise are reserved to historical studies. So a priori, the proposals should indeed include these simulation environments. Next question, please.
Then we have one for Democracy 0103. Which disciplines is this call primarily aimed at? What kind of team is expected?
Need to switch on my microphone. So this is 0103. This is again a question for me. The disciplines that are considered and in this call depends again on the type of proposal you do. So multidisciplinary approaches and diverse teams should really be used for this topic, as it is the case in most of Horizon Europe calls. Which disciplines and team composition is best depends on the substance of the proposal. What is important is that the range of disciplines and expertise in the team contributes to the soundness of the methodology of the proposal and are pertinent for the project's objectives, and of course need to be fit to achieve the expected outcomes as described in the topic. Thank you, Maria. Next question, please.
Thank you. Then we have one for Democracy 0103. The call refers to current research, recent insights. Could you help us understand what specific research this means that we could build on?
Thank you, Maria. So the recent insights. The text on the scope gives examples and explained what is meant, and I'm reading out a section which I think is the answer to that. Recent insights into the role of networks for the creation of value, for instance, the use of network models by human resource departments to estimate existing or future staff value, or the use of network theories to enrich understanding of financial systems related to the risks. They have yet to be transferred in an important manner to areas of study dealing with important public and common goods, such as rule of law and various human and fundamental rights, sorry about reading, and freedoms established by the European Union law. I think these they touch on a range of the different insights that we are aiming at. Thank you. Maria, next question, please.
Thank you. Then we have one for Democracy 0108 that says, it mentions limit potential threats to democracy. What sort of potential threats to democracy did you have in mind?
That is for Andrea, if you don't mind.
The call is about cultural spaces. Yeah, it's that 108 you said. Cultural spaces, yeah, the arts and cultural spaces for democratic participation and political expression. The threats to the democracy is basically not the focus of the analysis. It's about more using the arts and the cultural spaces for democratic participation and political expression. And the focus is not on the threats, but mostly on the use, this new use, the tendency to use these rather unusual spaces for democratic participation, political expression that we have seen and experienced after the post-COVID world or during the COVID pandemic. Thank you.
Yeah, next question, please, Maria.
Yes, thank you. So we have one for Democracy 0101. JRC Competence Center, Participatory Deliberative Democracy. How can we contact them? During the previous call, it was impossible.
Yes, and I think I will also take the answer to that, because there is a lot of interest in the very frequent reference to the JRC and its possible participation in our projects. Let me stress, since the JRC is also part of the Commission, the idea is actually not to reach out and talk to them directly about your ideas for proposals. So they have a very good website in which you can see which are the fields of activity where they're in, which are the research projects that they have currently ongoing. So I would recommend you first consult very carefully what they have in their website. If you have more specific questions, I think you will need to post them via the research inquiry system so that we can publicize the answer given by the JRC to absolutely everybody. That's a matter of fairness. But be aware, there is no obligation to foresee the involvement of the JRC. And even if you do foresee and if your project is evaluated positively, it is still up to the JRC to decide under which modality they will participate. I believe there is a general presentation on how it works with the JRC involvement in our projects that you can see also online. And with that, next question, please.
Thank you. Then we have one for Democracy 0108 that says, is it necessary to include the metaverse as an online space, or is it possible to work only on the social media space?
I believe this is also for Andrea.
Indeed.
Yes.
It is indeed important to look into the online spaces as well, and that metaverse is currently, when you look at the computer industry, for many in the computer industry, this is a vision that the metaverse is the next iteration of the internet. All these shared, immersive, virtual spaces where humans experience life in ways that they could not experience in the physical world. So indeed, this is important. There is a interdisciplinarity, both technology developers and designers involved in such an exploration together with the social science and humanities researchers, indeed. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Next question, please.
Yes, we have one for 0106. Which disciplines is this aimed at? What kind of team is expected? How many research units? All from academia institutions must be added.
Katja, we cannot hear you.
Sorry about that. Yes, I think that's again for me to answer. These questions on the interdisciplinarity or multidisciplinarity, I answered already one relating to the, I think, the 03 topic. Again, we encourage the interdisciplinarity, and please choose the disciplines and the teams that really correspond best to your proposal and the objectives of the proposal to make that coherent. We are not limiting that. Now it says how many research units. Again, this is really up to the proposal. The general rules for Horizon Europe participation is that participants from at least 3 member states or associated countries should be aboard. But how many research units really up to the proposer. Question on academia or institutions. I'm not quite sure that I understand. Yes, academia, of course, they're always more than welcome to be in the proposals. Institutions, I'm not 100% sure, for as long as they fit into the qualifications for participation in Horizon Europe projects. I think there is no limit to that, but there is no obligation like in, well, other calls where we really want to have non-academic stakeholders aboard. So I hope that answered the question, and over to the next question.
Then we have a question for Democracy 0108 that says, what kind of scale is expected for the experimentation of solutions, methods, and tools in expected outcome free?
Andrea, I think your topic is extremely popular. Please, over to you.
It sounds good. There's a vibe already around it. The scale, it will depend, of course, on the project partnership, whom you bring in, what you are offering, scale and scope of your analysis, what you're proposing within the sum that you could obtain for this research. So it is up to the proposers of what they can and they want to fit in what would be available as a budget for this particular research. But of course, the larger the better, and the more, of course, that you can draw as conclusions, valid conclusions for this analysis, it would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. Next question, please.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0111 that says, how open is the call open for creating new scenario methods and also questioning scenario thinking?
Andrea, again for you, please.
Thank you. That's an exciting question for a research project. Yeah, how open is the call for creating new scenario methods? So we would like to have solid scenarios for this exercise, co-designed with the European citizens. The new methods are welcome, of course, to experiment with, duly justifying your choices for the methodology and the potential impact of such a new approaches in the proposal already. So we can make an educated guess and a good, maybe an informed decision on whether to take this on board or not. There's always room at the end of your project to retrospectively and critically assessing the approaches you use throughout and the outcome that came out as a result to conclude your research project. But what is important for us here is that is a good analysis of data or that is already available, a good approach for collecting complementary data that you deem necessary, and good hands-on engagement. So the solid scenarios are key for this one. So I would say the new ambitions for creating new methods, yes, please experiment. But the critical assessment for the how you did it, it is more an introspection or an afterthought, or retrospectively you can do that. We would appreciate to see what you're suggesting. Thank you.
Andrea, Maria, I see questions are upvoted for, again, Andrea. Please, Maria, can you read?
Yes. We have one for Andrea again that says, could you expand on the expectations of deep analysis of the use of spaces for political expressions? And it's for Democracy 0108 again.
Can you read me the question again, please?
Of course. It says, could you expand on the expectations of deep analysis of the use of spaces for political expression?
Spaces. What already exists, what is being experimented with in the different contexts for democratic participation and political expression, what we can see as trends emerging. And the deep analysis is basically discussing with the people who hold these spaces, who animate these spaces, and obviously creating or hopping on the bandwagon for what's about reaching out to the people who are creating and animating these spaces, and for the potential for utilizing them for democratic expression and participation, which we already see examples popping up. So the deep analysis is more the outreach of as broad as possible, where people are already utilizing this and their projections for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please, Maria.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0111 that asks, what is meant by solid scientific forecasting? Is it intended quantitative forecast be done with qualitative and large-scale engagements?
And that looks again like being a question for Andrea. Sorry for bombarding you, but there's really interest in these two topics. Please.
Solid analysis, there's a solid foresight methodology, obviously, in place already. So you utilize what the data that is already there and collecting complementary data that you, together with the partnership, will deem necessary for this project. And then can you just read me the question again, whether I have...
Of course. What is meant by solid scientific forecasting?
Solid scientific.
Is it intended quantitative forecast be done with qualitative and large-scale engagements?
Yeah, so the forecasting is part of the foresight methodology. So indeed, that needs to be as rigorous as possible. And we are asking those scientifically proven methods to be complemented by hands-on engagements, which is the kind of qualitative the data that you get from the citizens. So we're asking for a good balance. Already there's a lot of assessment on democracy and democratic participation in the Union, and there's certain need for complementing it with data, and definitely the important bit here is the hands-on engagement to actually involve citizens in assessing what you dug up from the foresight exercises and creating the preferred scenarios for European Democracy 2040. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And another question probably for you.
Yes. For Democracy 0108 that asks, should proposal also explore legal and regulatory aspects in relation to social media?
This is a tough one. Yeah, as much as it makes sense, indeed. That as much as the legal framework could represent a challenge, indeed, that's a valid assessment. I cannot think of any further detail that would add value to this answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And again, let me stress the issue depends really on the concept of your proposal, whether you want to emphasize this legal and regulatory side of it. And I would like to take the next question, please.
Yes, we have one that says Democracy 0101. Is the participation of Ireland, Spain, and Belgium a must, or merely examples that we cannot consider in terms of evaluation?
I'm actually puzzled that there is a question or a topic description on Ireland, Spain, Belgium, but these are merely examples. Next question, please.
Yes, sorry. Democracy 0104, should we select some specific population groups to focus on and explicitly name them in the proposal?
Good, so this is not for Andrea, but for Alberto, I think. Please, Alberto.
Yes, good morning. So in this case, I think it's good to clarify also what we intend for group or social identities. In the context of this research, we intend social identities as groups. So groups a person feels he or she belongs to on the basis of ethnicity, nationality, gender, specific habits, party, or also occupation. The European Commission in the topic does not provide any definition of the group, as you see, and the proposals are invited to find their own methodologies, those that they deem the most appropriate to identify those groups on which they want to focus their research. So proposals are recommended to propose these methodologies that they deem the most appropriate, provided that these choices are duly justified and that these methodologies can provide elements to achieve the expected outcome as prescribed in the topic. So this goes to say that proposals can name the groups that they want to target, provided that they actually provide also the description of the methodologies that they will use to identify them.
Thank you, Alberto. And that brings us to the next question, again for Andrea.
Yes, for Democracy 0108, why does the topic mention metaverses and what is expected from applications in addressing metaverse?
I think I partially already answered that question in the first one. So we would like to explore both, not only physical spaces, but also online spaces. There have been interesting explorations already in using such spaces for especially online spaces, but metaverses is something new and with a lot of potential. In the computer industry, many believe that it's the next iteration of the internet, where people can experience a world that they cannot do in the physical world, especially after or during COVID and in the post-COVID world. This is gaining a lot of importance. So indeed, the metaverse are the people who develop that kind of technology and who build virtual spaces to examine this potential of utilizing them for democratic participation and political expression would be an important part of such a project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea. And we come to the next question, please.
Yes, we have one for 0106 that says, proposals are encouraged to collaborate with the JRC. Do they have to be invited as partners, or would they get involved once the project is running?
Thank you. That is, I think, very, very similar to the question that I already answered a little bit earlier. So the JRC does not have to be a project partner. The entire evaluation of the proposals will be done independent of JRC being mentioned as contributing activities as a partner or not. Be assured of that. If the project proposal said we would like the JRC to work on the following and so on, then the JRC after the evaluation will be contacted to work out with them for the winning proposals, whether they would wish to join or not. But again, there is a general explanation on the JRC participation, which I think can be found on the internet. So over to the next question, please.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0111 that says, the outcome states political and institutional actors are these, and CSOs meant to be strictly youth or of all ages, as young EU citizens is clear.
I think that's again for Andrea.
Yeah, currently there are not many young people in political institutions, but the importance of the perspective of currently in place political institutions and actors is also important. So we cannot design visions without the current players in the game. So indeed, the focus on the hands-on involvement are for all currently in place, but the perspective of young generation is key. Thank you.
And over to the next question, please.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0112. What does twinning as potential instrument for testing mean in the context of this topic?
I think there the question comes on me. So to be clear, twinning is not meant in the sense of the WIDERA calls, where there is one type of WIDERA calls which are called twinning. So nothing to do with that. Twinning means in the context of this topic, linking at least two research institutions or stakeholders possibly from 2 different member states or associated countries, but that's not even a requirement. For the purpose of our topic, twinning might be a useful instrument to attain the expected outcome of testing and uptake of research results involving stakeholders to explore their readiness to implement these solutions developed in the previous research and innovation project, possibly adapting the solutions to the respective societal or administrative or political context. As mentioned in our call text, another potential instrument for achieving this is the launch of open calls for pilots. And of course, other forms of organizing such testing are also possible. So over to the next question.
We have a question that says, for Democracy 0104, what is meant by encompassing identities?
I think that goes to Alberto, if I'm not mistaken.
This is me. So I think that here we just mean the overall identities that one person feels he or she belongs to. A person can certainly believe she or he is part of several groups or more than one group. So again, here on the basis of ethnicity, nationality, gender, specific habits, party, occupation. So it also deals a lot with intersectionality, with the concept of intersectionality. So I think that proposals are also envisaged to identify intersectionalities and different ways that individuals identify themselves, believe they belong to different types of groups at the same time.
Thank you very much, Alberto. Over to the next.
Yes, we have one for Democracy 0104 that says, do all partners need to run a pilot intervention planned in our methodology, or may it be done in some of the countries?
Yes, this is again for me. It is not mandatory to run a pilot in all the countries, of course, and or pilot on all the groups that are being identified by the proposals. But the consortia could identify in their own proposals whether they deem relevant to run pilots and to select them where or in which countries they want to implement them. So in reality, it really depends on the distribution of tasks of the work to be done among the members of each of the consortia.
Thank you very much, Alberto. And over to the next question.
Yes, we have one for Democracy 0110 that says, reference to automatic language tools. How much technical work is expected? Digital and technical tools are expected to be delivered?
So I will take that question. Yes, there is a reference to automated language tools. But mind you, this is not a call under cluster 4 for developing a new language tool technology. It really is very specifically relating to the democracy objectives we have. Now, how much technical work is expected? It really depends how you construct your proposal and what are the objectives. They always have to be in line, of course, with the expected and support the expected outcomes. But there is no percentage that would make sense to mention. I think it depends on the approach that you are taking. Thank you very much. And over to the next question, please.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0108 that says, you mentioned online and offline spaces. Can you confirm that you are open to a combination of the two, mixed reality?
Andrea, again for you, you are a star here at this Info Day session.
Mixed reality. Well, that's something I have not experienced yet. So, okay, looking forward to the suggestions. Please make sure that when you are proposing new approaches and when you're proposing a mixture online and offline, you need to already justify your approach in the proposal so we can make an informed decision on whether to take it on board or not. So it should be justified and explained why you are proposing what you're proposing. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to the next question, please.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0108 that says, is it expected to implement activities on education specifically?
Again for Andrea.
On education specifically. Don't quite know how to interpret the question, but on education specifically, there's no focus in this case. This is more about how to utilize the spaces of cultural and the arts and practices, or the spaces where it's such arts and culture are practiced for democratic participation and political expression. And then you could draw conclusions for what it would look like if we bring it to the education sphere, but that's not the focus of the goal. Thank you.
Next question, please.
Thank you. And for 0108, it says recommendations that ensure that digital spaces can, by design, have a positive impact. Can design principles be outputs, definition of positive impact?
This is a very specific question for researchers should answer. I think we stay with the answer that you make your proposal and you justify your choices, and then the experts will make a final decision how valid this approach will be. But indeed, when it comes to online spaces, designers and the people working on tech background for metaverses are indeed a good option to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next question, please.
Yes, we have one for 0108 that says, is social media defined as social network, such as X, Meta, or is it any kind of social participatory net/web platform?
I think that goes at the end for Andrea, but we are not
technology specific. Indeed, it is too tech specific. Again, the same answer. This is you as a consortium propose the approach you want to take, and you duly justify your choices within the proposal, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And next question. Please do keep posting your questions on Slido, please. But Maria, next question.
Thank you. We have one for 0102 that says, mentions proposals could analyze the resilience of cross-border territories. What is meant by this resilience? Climate resilience?
I think I will take the answer to that. I read here in the text, given the very particular situation of border regions, proposals could analyze innovative legal instruments, organizational setups, cross-border democratic processes that strengthen cross-border cooperation, and ultimately the resilience of cross-border territories. I suppose this is what the question refers to. Yes, it could be climate resilience. It's very difficult to find governance solutions in cross-border situations when, for instance, you come to flood management questions and other climate-related actions. Just bear on mind that this topic, as said in the expected outcome session, it is focus on climate, but the overall proposal must also have a digital component. And
thank you. And continuing a little bit, we have one that's from 0102. Reference cross-border territories. Is this level of government to be considered as such, even if it has no competence for policies?
So, whether to consider a cross-border territory in this in your proposal it depends really on what type of issue you want to look at. Mind you, it is about multi-level government more than anything. If your concept and the questions that you are looking into and the research you're doing wishes to look into cross-border territories, you're free to do so, but it is not a must. Thank you, Maria, and over to the next question.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0105. Do you expect a quantitative research approach? Is it mandatory?
And that, I think, goes to Oriane, please.
Yes, and short answer, no, it's not mandatory. We do not expect a quantitative approach. What the text reads is interdisciplinary approach. So of course you can mix quantitative and qualitative research, but it's not mandatory.
Thank you very much, Oriane. And next question, please.
Thank you. We have one for Democracy 0104. What does the fusion of antagonistic identities or social norms means in the context of expected outcome 3?
That's a difficult question, and I'm afraid it goes to Alberto.
Yes, can you repeat the question? What does the fusion of antagonistic identities or social norms mean in the context of expected outcome number 3? Correct?
Yes.
Yes. Well, here I think we need also to clarify what we mean by social norms. So by social norms, we also mean how you're expected to act, or how one person is expected to act based on what people believe, or the person believe that he or she should behave, or the group he or she should identify with. So some identification creates social norms that must be open and welcoming, while others identify themselves in terms of closure or to defense of one person or one group against another. So here we want to understand how the social norms are established within one group in terms of being also antagonistic towards other groups, because some groups we know are automatically, by definition, are groups because they are against another group, because they are against something else. So by antagonistic identities, here we're referring to these identities that are based on antagonism, again, on negativity, on basically on the defense of oneself against something else. So this is what we mean by antagonistic identities.
Thank you very much, Alberto. And to the next question, please.
Thank you. For 0104, do all partners need to run a pilot intervention? And if yes, can they have run their own independent one, or it has to be the same across?
Yes, this is again for me. I think this was already answered before. I think that I mean, if the consortia deem appropriate to run pilots, they can do so, and they can put that in their proposals, and they of course identify the methodologies that they will be implementing and using. Do not need to run a pilot intervention. No, not all partners, of course, they need to run a pilot intervention. Depends again on the distribution of tasks of the work to be done across the members of the consortium. So it really depends on what the consortium deemed, and then it's gonna be up to the evaluators of the proposals to see whether what the consortia included in their proposals is appropriate to meet the objectives of the research which is envisaged.
Thank you very much, Alberto. And we come to the next question, please, Maria.
Thank you. I just accidentally deleted it. I have to get it back here. So it's for 0108 that says, does the expansion of solutions, methods, and tool entail the division of prototypes? If so, to what extent do these need to be viable at the end of the project?
And here we come
Can
back
I have
to
that again?
our event.
Yes, can I have the question again, please?
Of course. Does the expense of solution methods and tools entail the division of prototypes? If so, to what extent do these need to be viable at the end of the project?
Prototyping can result in any a success or a failure. So whether it's viable or not, if he failed, there is also lessons learned from that. So indeed, prototyping and iterations can result in failure, and then you explain why it failed, how it failed, and what was the learning from it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And next question, please, Maria.
Yes, we have one for 0111. Is it preferred that different experiments are done on making scenarios with different NGOs, participants, organizations?
Different experiments are done. I don't see whether they're different in different corners and separately done. Is this what the question is referring to? But the more cohesive the approach, the better. So if I understand the question well, this would be my answer. So not separated and different experiments done in different corners at small scales, but to keep the cohort together as much as possible with whom you're working for designing or co-designing the future scenarios. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
One for democracy. Oh, sorry, I have an echo. One for democracy 0102 that says, is it expected to be covered the all union member states or can focus in well-justified and transferable case studies in various countries?
I think I will take this one. So the 02 is multi-level governance in times of digital and climate transitions. If I understand correctly, the question is really whether the entire European Union should be covered. No, it can by all means be case studies in various countries. And please also remember that we have associated countries which may also have very interesting approaches to multi-level governance. So up to you to pick which countries you are choosing and you want to work on for your proposal. Thank you. Do we have any other question?
Yes, we have one from 0111. States provide youth with tools to put those visions in practice. Is it envisioned to run trainings as well?
No, for here it is more the building of future scenarios, well assessed, co-designed with young people and the political institutions in place for European Democracy 2040. So in the roadmap that you're outlining at the very end, if you consider that education is an important element, then you include it. Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings me, I think, to another question for Andrea, please.
Yes, for Democracy 0108, is a critical engagement with the metaverse and a proposal for other understandings of social media also encouraged?
I don't quite understand what the other engagement with social media would be, but indeed the metaverse is an important, at least for its potential, and discussing with the people who are involved in developing those and its application for democratic participation and political expression is indeed important. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And next question, please.
Thank you. One for 0111. Is it expected outcome just the different scenarios or methods for making them in the future as well, or both?
That sounds like, again, being for Andrea.
Yeah, we are building future scenarios to learn what is possible based on, of course, the solid science behind it, the data, what it shows, and of course the co-design of the future scenarios with the young people and the currently in place political decision makers. So indeed, the future scenarios are important, but as well as what's the preferred scenario for 2040, and roadmap and a strategy playbook that to go with it of how to establish then how to work towards that future scenario to become a reality 2040 or beyond is important indeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. And another question, let me remind you also of our timing. We have a little bit more than 5 minutes. Please, Maria, go ahead.
Thank you. One for 0106 that says, is the creation of synthetic data sets mandatory?
And I'll take that one. I'm afraid it is. If you look into expected outcomes in the second bullet, and all of the expected outcomes have to be there, there is, it says, develop and test methodologies that combine and integrate CSS and other social science and humanity methods to study democratic governance, overcoming traditional boundaries in the field, and producing synthetic data. So we would be really advising to include that in the proposals. Maria, we are coming to almost the last questions, please.
Almost an end, yes. We have one for democracy 0104 that says proposals should utilize participatory methods for research with a focus on community empowerment. Could you explain this?
Yes, this is for me. Again, it really depends on the methodologies that proposals identify in their research concept to their research. We want, of course, the research teams to identify a set of groups, a set of communities of groups of individuals on which to focus their research. But the methodologies, whether this is community empowerment or others, this is really up to the consortia to tell us and to justify such a methodology. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Next.
Thank you. One for democracy 0102. Linking with structural funds policies in the field and is expected, and stakeholders managing those on national or regional or local level.
The question isn't 100% clear to me. We didn't make any explicit reference to structural funds, as far as I remember, in the description. But the management setup for structural funds could be one of the elements to look into, because there's definitely multi-level governance dimension involved. But this is really up to the proposer to see what they want to focus on. Do we have time for an almost last question?
Yes, we have one for democracy 0108. Is the emphasis on online looking for a technical solution?
That is again for Andrea, I'm afraid.
Not to the extent of developing a technological solution from scratch. No, indeed. It is more the assessment of how the online, well, of course, that has the assessment has a technological part, discussing with the people who do that sort of thing, who develop technology for metaverse and for online spaces. And the assessment is important for us as in their potential for being utilized for democratic participation and political expression. It's not to develop the technology and per se. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think we ran almost out of questions.
We have one left. Maybe we can make the last one here. That says for democracy 0101, the topic focuses on protest outside traditional party structures. Is it relevant to examine protest within established parties or government? Katja, I think you're muted. Yes.
Yes, sorry, I was muted. There is no limitations in that sense. It is really about these protest movements. So also protests within established parties or government can be covered by this topic. And I think, if I'm not entirely mistaken with that, we ran almost out of questions, but we definitively run out of time. So for those of you who have unfortunately not on time posted the questions, as Sören said in the introduction, please do not hesitate reaching out to the relevant national contact point in your country. If they cannot help you, please put the questions into the research inquiry service. And in any case, do keep checking the frequently asked questions, or rather the answers to frequently asked questions, which we are uploading gradually in the topic-specific sections for the in the funding and tenders portal. With that, let me thank you very much. There will be a short break now in the program, I think until 11:15, when Destination 2 and Cultural Heritage will be presented. And I wish you all best of luck for forming your proposals. Have a good day. Bye-bye.